Yeah, I don't want it in the cloud. I did that once. It took eons to get the recording processed and back down. But
Yes.
okay, well, let's see if some people join us. I sent out a bunch of invitations. So I'm on the board of a family association, and I sent everybody there an invitation, and of course all the masterwork folk got invitations. So we'll see.
I have a few friends, and maybe even someone that Marcus would recognize joining us.
Is that a
Who
threat?
could that be?
It's good.
Another minute or two before.
Here we go. Oh, there's Laura. And Kaylee. Hey.
Hello.
Hello again.
Yes.
Hello.
We're 2 for 1.
Yes. How are you doing, Kaylee?
Good.
Good. You look good.
She's a little bummed because she has no dance classes this semester. They canceled them all.
Oh, that's terrible.
That is terrible.
But my studio is still open, so I can still take class. I just don't get college credit for them because it's not for college.
Oh.
Wow.
Well.
Well, I was interested to hear that down in Connecticut, where I am, that they had some difficulties because the high school wrestling program had continued, and I am trying to figure out how one would do wrestling with social distancing.
Hey, Alice. Yeah, that's tricky.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
My son once had 2 weeks off of school early for Christmas because his high school's wrestling team got some kind of contagious skin rash from some other high school wrestling team.
Oh boy.
This just does not sound good.
No, it's just bad, and it was an all boys high school. So, there were so many jokes about it, but yeah.
Just as housekeeping, I think the other thing that we need to do, and maybe I can even do this next week, there's for another $200 a year, you can become a webinar level Zoomer. And that lets you have more people, but it also lets you distinguish between the people who are actually participating and then people who are simply attending.
Yeah.
And I think that might make some sense, but we'll see. And this at least is better than last week. Last week I had it so that every time somebody came in, I had to admit them, which got old. But
one thing about Zoom, you start off with the basic, and then you end up with the most expensive one because you realize what you need. Like for me, I wanted to teach ballet class, and the first time I was teaching ballet class, because of the delay, I had to upgrade so that I could play my music through, and then
right. Yeah.
And then you have to worry about, licensing and all that stuff for,
Oh, yeah.
We had to get some kind of common license at church to play church organ music.
Oh.
Wow.
Because people
and now they're adding taxes. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, well, of course they are. Well, we'll give it another minute and then we'll just dive in.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Oh, thank you. We're doing it in a second. Yeah.
Let me grab some water right quick. Sorry.
Yep.
This is the time. Anyway. Okay.
You guys are lucky because I got dressed. I was in my PJs. And I thought, I am not going to come to my PJ
Me too.
I
told
got
Mom
dressed.
years ago, hey mom, I'm gonna go make myself look good for the Zoom.
Exactly.
Yeah. From,
There's
from the shoulders up.
Yeah.
there's
No, I actually have on pants. I have on jeans. I
No,
had on
that's good. Yeah. No, there's there's one of the inline commercials on YouTube for it's for Zoom equipment. It's like backdrops and all that stuff. And the guy who's setting it all up is in boxer shorts. So
I got a light for my computer so that I wasn't always backlit.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
I have.
Oh, yes.
Mine's
could
stuck
use
on the
one.
back of my laptop. Because this is a sun porch and I have 7 windows, so
Oh,
too much
yeah,
yeah.
backlighting. So.
yeah, and I
have a ring
eventually
light.
have
I
to.
got these like goggles on my glasses from it.
I
Yours
have to
is-
upgrade mine because my computer, because I have the old Intel graphics chip, and you see all this little fuzziness around my face and body. It's not what we.
Gary.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
You know.
We were waiting for you for so long, Gary.
Only 3 more to achieve full Brady Bunch.
Haley could go sign in on her own computer.
No,
Oh,
sorry.
That's fine.
fun to sit with Mom. Well, I think we can start now, and folks
Yeah,
will
let's
just
hit it.
join as they join. Well, welcome everyone to A Life in the Arts, a Zoom series offered by the Masterwork Music and Art Foundation. I'm Todd Whitley, the Foundation's Executive Director. The Masterwork Music and Art Foundation is a nonprofit arts organization founded in Morristown, New Jersey, over 50 years ago. Dedicated to excellence in the arts, today the organization offers 3 levels of grant opportunities for artists and arts organizations. Community grants, designed to encourage community engagement. Competitive grants offered to inspire excellence in artistry, and a Premier Award, a $10,000 grant to help an emerging artist reach the next level of their career. With A Life in the Arts, Masterwork Arts is building a library of interviews with people who have dedicated their lives to the arts or supporting the arts as a resource to help guide young artists with their career aspirations. Tonight, I'm very happy that we are interviewing Marcus McGregor. Marcus is one of the most talented people I know, and certainly among the most entrepreneurial, who's dedicated his life to dance in particular in a number of different capacities. But it doesn't stop there with Marcus. There are a number of hyphens usually associated with him. He's also the director of community engagement for the Petronio residency, and has a hospitality business, which includes a motel in the Catskills, the Rose Motel, among just a few things. And interviewing Marcus tonight, we have Joseph White, a longtime friend and colleague, and someone whose relationship with Masterwork goes back to the very beginning, over 50 years ago. So, and with that, actually, I should say, even though everyone here is pretty good on the housekeeping tips, but roughly the interview will last about a half hour, and then we'll have a Q&A where folks can ask whatever questions they'd like. And with that, Joe, if you would please take it away.
Okay. So, good evening, Marcus. It's lovely to make your acquaintance.
Yes, same.
So I guess the first question is, why dance? What was it about dance that attracted you and kept you engaged in doing this not easy art form?
Okay, so my sister was taking a ballet class at a woman on our street in her basement. And all the girls in the class got these little tutus. And I thought they were fantastic. And so my sister came home with this tutu, and I wanted one so badly. So in my head, if I took ballet class, I got a tutu, not knowing that boys didn't wear tutus. So I would go and take her down to the ballet class, and I would sit there and watch, hoping that like I could either get one or something. So the girls would do all the plies and stuff, and I just stood against the wall and I was doing it. And the teacher invited me to come in and do it. And in my head, oh my God, this is my chance. I'm going to get a tutu. So I got in there and I did the plies, I did everything. And so all the girls had these little skirts on, and I wanted one so badly. So I didn't get one that day. So I thought, oh, if I go back, I'll get one the next time. So I went home. My sister had her tutu. She said, hang it up in her closet. And I remember hiding in her closet to squeeze into this little tutu. And my mother opened the door and saw me in this thing, said, Marcus. And I go, you know, I jumped up. I was like, I just want to try it. And my mother's like, no, okay. So we ended up finding out that boys don't wear tutus. I was disappointed, but I really loved ballet class. I had so much fun. Yeah. So I kept going back to ballet class. My sister eventually quit. I kept going. So that's how I got started initially.
It takes me back to a story from Chorus Line, which is very similar. So you're classically trained in dance, and so everybody who enters the professions of the arts has to go from that part of being in training into that it's going to be what you do.
Yes. And
that you're hoping to get paid for, and you're all of those good things so that you can live. So your break was into the Dance Theater of Harlem. And so what's the story of that? How did you make that transition?
So I was at Hartford Ballet. And at Hartford Ballet back in those days, it was only a handful of kids of color.
Right.
And so Carl Shook was Arthur Mitchell's partner at the time, traveled around, and he would teach master classes. And so he came to Hartford and he was teaching a master class, and it was myself and another young woman that was the only kids of color in class. And so he invited me to Dance Theater of Harlem. I didn't know anything about Dance Theater of Harlem. And so I went home, told my mom, and she was like, well, yeah, if you want to go. So we had a school teacher, and I was also dancing, not just at Hartford Ballet, but I was also doing something called the North End Dance Troupe. It was a high school dance team. And Sherelle Jiggis was the teacher at the time. And she did this college-bound tour for all the seniors. And so all the lower kids, I was a freshman at the time, would go on tour. And so that summer, we were going to New York City. And she happened to mention Dance Theater of Harlem. And that was the same place that I was like, oh, I'm going to go there this summer. So we went there, and I got to take class before I even went there during the summer. And I have to tell you, for a kid of color to go inside a building where no one looks like you at this place that you are, and you feel less than, to go into a building where everybody looks like you, and it kind of empowered me that I kind of knew I had a place for me, because prior to that, anytime I would do any of those ballets, because I was one of two kids of color, I would be in the back or on the side, never up front. And so when I went to Dance Theater of Harlem, I could stand in class anywhere I want to. I didn't have a teacher telling me to stand on the side. I didn't have a teacher telling me to stand in back. I didn't have a teacher telling me that, you don't have good feet, you don't have perfect legs. I didn't have that. I had somebody who was empowering me, telling me, oh yeah, work harder, do this, do it like this. This is how you do it. And I found that has changed my life now. So like now when I teach, I always empower all my girls. I don't care if you're fat, I don't care if you're skinny, I don't care if you don't have perfect feet, because dance, you don't have to be the perfect dancer, but it empowers you in some way that you'll go off and you'll do something else in the arts or in life, but you'll always have that power, And so for me, Dance Theater of Harlem changed my life. It was a place where I fit in, I belong. So I knew no matter what happened, there was a place for me.
That's wonderful. The I know there's a question that we came up with here that I'm not a dancer. Never. I've done a little bit of dance in acting school and not well. But RJ, welcome. But one of the questions here is it says, as a professional dancer, you worked with a dance theater of Harlem and Elliott Feld. At that time, what's the difference between being in a company then and how is being in a company now? And what's changed?
Well, I couldn't tell you about being in a company now because I'm not in one. But back then, being in a company, that was like, for me, that was my family, because every day of your life, all I did was dance, you know, every day. So I don't get a chance to see my family and stuff. So being in a company, it taught me how to be in a group of people where it wasn't just your talent that got you up, but how you carried yourself in the company. How did you figured out that it wasn't about you, it was for the greater good of the company. So when you learned the ballet, you didn't just learn your part, you learned your part and someone else's part, because you never know who would get hurt. And for me, I got a lot of the good roles, even in Dance Theater for Harlem and in Feld, because I would go to other people's rehearsals and learn their parts. I remember one time we were at Kennedy Center and one of the dancers got hurt. We were doing a big dance called Dougala. Joffrey Holder was the choreographer. It's an African wedding. It's called Dougala. And there's a section of it called the acrobats. And it's these two guys that come out and they do all this contortion and stuff with their body. And I remember going to rehearsal and I loved that part. And I would always go and learn different ballets. And we were at Kennedy Center and a guy got hurt and he couldn't go on. And they said, well, Marcus, I saw you in rehearsal. Do you know that? And I said, yes, I do. Said, do you know it well enough to do it? Yes, I do. And I got out on stage that night and performed it. And then that was my part ever since. So it was always about, like, not just about me, but about the greater good of the company.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's, there's another breakthrough. So Todd, you've got some pictures.
Oh.
I do.
Yes, God. I think I gave you just because I wanted people to see.
Kaylee, how old are you again?
She's old enough.
Okay.
No, there's some very striking pictures here, and let's see if, oh, you know what? I need a,
well, you hold on. I'll make sure that you
Our host.
Well, you are a co-host. Yep, and so you should be able to share the screen now.
Okay. Let's see. Oops, where am I? Oh. So I'll go here and oh, that was scary. Let's see.
Oh. So that's my kids. I call them my kids because I adore them. Teaching ballet class over in Hudson, at Hudson Valley Academy of Performing Arts with Deborah Hughes. That was rehearsing Nutcracker. Those are my little lambs.
Oh.
And this is in Cooksaki. This is my little girls. And see the bow I have on my head?
Yes.
So when the girls wear bows, I steal their bows and wear them. And so they got tired of me stealing their bows and they brought me my own bow. That's my bow. But these are my girls. And so every year I choreographed the High School Musical in Catskill. I used to do Cooksaki as well. This is us working on The Little Mermaid.
Oh, That's not a very
That's not
exciting.
Ah,
So, as you know, you guys, I do the community outreach for the Petronio Residency Center. But prior to working with him, I'd volunteered to go into all the school systems. And I would go into all the elementary schools, because Greene County is one of the poorest counties and the kids don't get access to the arts. And so I would volunteer and go into all the school systems. So and the hard thing was going into the schools and talking to the teacher. I find it important for me to do that because most of the kids don't see people of color going into the schools. So my thing is to show them that people of color care about them too. So that way they'll have a different experience. So when they hear their moms or their grandparents say something negative, they'll have a different experience with somebody of color. So I found it really important for me to do that. So this is in one of Greenville school system.
That's great. I love that shot, Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's a plug for the Rose Motel.
there you go.
So a few years ago, I bought the Rose Motel. It's in Durham on 145. It's a 15-unit building, and we've fixed it up and turned it back into its really nice, kind of trendy place for people to stay. So.
Ooh, oh, this was the one I had to look twice.
Okay, yeah, we have clothes on. This is that dance I was telling you about, Dougala, and that's the section of the acrobats I was telling you about. As you see, that's me when I was skinny and.
Yeah, by any chance you have a portrait in your attic that has stayed the same, has aged while you've stayed exactly the same?
Oh, bless your heart. So that was in Paris. We were on our way to the Soviet Union, and that was with Indolin Taylor and Arthur Mitchell and I going into a fundraiser.
I don't think I realized till now that you're taller than Arthur.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I was taller than most of the guys in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, so we went to Aarhus, Denmark to film Fall River Legend. And that was that was on stage. I was one of the accused. So that video is out. You can find Dance Theater of Harlem doing Fall River Legend.
Well, thanks for those images, Marcus. They're really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So actually, now we mentioned the Petronio residency again. So what is that?
All right, so Stephen Petronio has a dance company that's based in the city, a modern company. And what he's done is he's come up this area, and he's built a residency center. And what they do is they offer young choreographers a place to create their works, and they give them a place to live, and they feed them for a week or 2 weeks. I'm not sure how long they'll stay, so when he came up here, prior to him coming up, when the lumberyard came up, I approached them about what are they going to do for the community? Because when you come into our area, we have the have and have-nots. And prior to me living here, I was one of the haves, and I didn't think about the have-nots. Now that I'm here, I see all these kids that are starving for the arts, but have no access to them. And so so now that I'm here, anytime people come up here, the first thing I say is, what are you going to do for our community? Like, you can come and ingratiate yourself, but I think you need to bring something into our community. So I spoke to the lumberyard. They said they were going to do stuff. They did like little pieces here and there. But when I approached Stephen, he was all for it. He was like, well, what do you need me to do? And so I talked to him and told him what I was doing. And so he said that he would help me get funding to keep it going. And so here we are. I'm his education and community outreach director. I go into all the schools, and under him, using his name, and I teach dance and bring dance and theater to all the kids, as many kids as I can. Last year, I did upwards of 10,000 kids. I was in Greenville, I was in Hunter, I was in Cooksaki, I was in Catskill, and I did elementary, middle, and high school. And right now, since of COVID, I'm still doing it. I've been making little videos, and I send them to the school. I hired a videographer from the local cable company, and he comes in, he helps me videotape the dances, and we send them off to the schools. This way the kids have something to do. And I made it so that if they're in their bedroom, if they're in their living room, they can still dance because they're not moving around too much, but they're still having fun and jumping around, laughing and having fun. So.
Yeah. The, well, the thing that particularly strikes me is dancers are kind of like professional athletes in that they have there's kind of a career span. And when, I mean, I did see Martha Graham actually dance in the late 1960s when she was in her late 60s. And she was still doing it, but that's really the exception. And, but and then I guess the natural transition is into choreography or direction, but not everybody makes that transition. And what for you, how did you go about making that transition for yourself and creating obviously a very fulfilling career, a really fulfilling career phase?
So one thing I find that I really love dance. I mean, it's been my life. I eat, sleep, and think of dance all the time. I notice it when I'm watching a commercial. And there are other people out there. There are young kids out there. And I feel like I have something that I can't take with me when I die, but I can pass it on now. And so I engage the kids. I talk to them, and I try to meet all the kids where they are. I'm not trying to push my kind of dance on you. I want you to find what makes you happy. I'll teach you the basics of dance. So I'll teach you how to do a plie. I'll teach you what the words are, what it means, all that stuff. But later on, you'll go off and you'll do what makes you happy. Like right now, I have a little boy who just went to college, Riley, you know him, Todd, and another woman who just went off to college, Grace. And so I had them when they were really young, teaching them dance. And it makes me so proud that I have kids that I've basically raised, and I send them off to school. I help them choreograph their audition piece and stuff. I never tell my kids no, because I knew I had somebody there for me. So whenever they ask me to do something for them, I always say yes, because you have to have one person that's there for them, no matter what. So I never tell them no.
Mm. Well, and then I guess my last question, the elephant in the room for all of the arts right now is this wonderful pandemic that we're surviving. And how does one, I look here, we have two professional and one amateur theater group in my little town here, and a symphony orchestra, none of whom can do anything. And they're all, the symphony orchestra had an auction this week to just try to keep, money in the till to pay the electric bills and stuff. But so I don't know, how are you dealing with that challenge in your work with all those wonderful kids?
Well, two things. One is I'm making the videos for the kids in schools. A lot of times I teach a ballet class on Zoom. So I have a little portable ballet bar right in my living room that I bring in this room that I'm sitting in, which is my kitchen, that I actually push my table aside in the corner, and it's become my ballet room. I teach Pilates during the day. I used to have a studio in Albany that I had to close, but I still have a lot of clients. So what I do is I do a workout. So I went to all my clients and gave them all a little goodie bag. And in the goodie bag, it had a set of weights, it had a foam roller, it had a yoga block and a rolling mat. And so this way, when I go to train them, they all have all the equipment that they need that we're going to use. They all have to have a chair without arms so that we can do our workout. A lot of people can't get on the floor and get up, so we use the chair to sit down. So I've tried to work around it, and it's been challenging, but we're managing to do what we need to do.
I'm noticing it's the same spirit of creativity that got you this new phase of your career in life.
Yes.
And so Todd said earlier, you have there's an awful lot of hyphens in your life description, in your resume.
Well,
you have maybe more hyphens than anybody I've met recently. But so does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask Marcus? Silence. Oh, well, actually, I have a question, which is if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
well, Todd has my information, so you could always post it and give it to anybody that needs it.
Okay.
So, well, you said something to me, or you said the hyphens. So when I was dancing, and when you're dancing, or at the level that I was, your life basically goes on hold for a block of time. So from the time you start until the time you finish, you're basically eat, sleep, and drink, dance. So everything else gets put on hold. Now that I'm not dancing, I get to do anything I want. So one thing that you guys don't know about me that I didn't tell is that not only do I have a motel and I have a B&B that I live in, and I have my dancing and I have my farm and my animals, but I'm a day of event coordinator at weddings locally. So there's a place called Windriff Hall in Coxsackie, and I manage there. And then Stephen is trying to make his place a wedding venue up in Crow's Nest. And he asked me this year, would I do it? But like for the last 5 years, I spend the whole summer doing weddings. Last year I did 17 weddings. This year with the COVID, I had 12 scheduled, but only 5 went according to plan. Smaller though, 30 people, 20 people, but that's what I do.
I want to just say that to me, this is what the life of an artist means, is you're always creating. And that's, if you can't create one place, then you create another place. And I think you're an absolute inspiration to us all, Marcus.
Thank you. Well,
yes.
Another thing is I get bored really easy. And if I don't keep changing, so everything I do has a time limit. My weddings are only during the summer. My school teaching is only during the school year. I don't teach ballet class during the summer. Everything has a window of time that I get to go. So I feel like I'm doing a ballet for that amount of time. And then the ballet's over. So now I got to start another one. So, yes, I do a lot of things, but I also have a lot of fun doing it. I drive my husband crazy because he's always like, what are you doing now? So it's okay. I'm having fun.
Well, thank you very much. And so thank you all for joining us.
Kaylee, did you have a question?
Hi, my name's Kaylee. I've been dancing for 14 years, mostly ballet. But I'm in college now. I'm at a 2-year school, and I'm hoping on moving on to a 4-year school within the next year or so. But I was wondering how you get started with teaching dance.
How do you get started with teaching dance? Well, I'd say talk where you are. Talk, if you're advanced enough, talk to the people that you're around. I got started teaching dance because I would always wanted to teach the kids. I don't have any kids, but I'm a big kid person. If you came to my house, you would think I had about 10 kids because I have toys, I have Thomas the Train set, I have hula hoops. You would think I have kids, but every time my friends come with their kids, I know how to keep them occupied so they don't mess up my house. Kids, that's where you start. If you start teaching kids, everybody loves to see their kid dance. So I'd say start there. It'll only help you hone your skills better. I had a little girl who her mom brought her to me, who had cerebral palsy. And I never taught a kid with cerebral palsy before. And I did everything to think about how to do it. And so when I got home, I did some research, and I found that it's nothing wrong with her. It's just that her motor skills are off. They're not in sync with her. And so the only way it's going to help her is let her keep doing stuff over and over and over again. So because she gets muscle memory, and then her body will learn to react faster. So she would come to class, and I would give her stuff across the floor, and she would fall, and her mom would come running into the room. So what I did was I came home and I used to rollerblade when I lived in the city all the time. So I had the knee pads and the elbow wrist guards and a helmet. So I brought all that into the studio, and I put the helmet on little girl. I put the wrist guards on her. I put the knee pads on. And now I just let her go. And every time she falls, her mother kind of go, get out. Let her fall. She needs to fall. Every time she falls, she'll realize she can't do that next time. But if you stop her from falling, she'll never learn.
Right.
And so it taught me that I can teach this little girl by just letting her fall. And she became, and Faye was her name. And her mom brought her back to the studio years later. And here she is grown up, and she still remembered the day that I put the helmet on her. And her mother was so upset that I put this helmet on her because none of the other girls had it on. So what I did was I made all the other girls come in with helmets the next time. So everybody had a helmet on now.
Yeah.
But you just have to figure out how to make it happen. And when your kids feel different, point out that their strengths in it. That's what I'd try to do. My little girls who are overweight, I don't talk about that to them. That's not what they need to hear now. I worked with girls who had eating disorders for a long, long time. So I talk about other things about them. I go, well, you're a good jumper. You're a good this. And I always talk to them about it. And I use this as an example, and I show the girls pictures of it. There was a girl when I danced with the Feld Ballet. Her name was Elizabeth Miller. We called her Buffy. Buffy was a full-figured woman, big breasts, big hips, everything. But I loved dancing with her. You know, I tell my girls, because all the little skinny girls, they had it easy. They didn't have to work because the guys could pick them up. So when you dance with a skinny girl, she didn't jump. She just laid there like a wet noodle, and you had to push her up. But because Buffy Miller was big, she knew she needed to help me. So she would jump really hard, and I can get her up in the air. So I always say, it doesn't matter. It all depends on how you work with the partner. Not if you're skinny, if you're fat, it's how you work. So, you know, don't let that fool you. So.
Marcus, I'm going to say one of the thrills of my adult life was convincing you to come out of retirement to do a little number for something I choreographed, and working with me on that. And I think we must have just turned 30 or something when that happened. But what I wanted to ask you was, or to hear you comment on it. So not every, it's sometimes it's a gene thing, but not everyone who falls in love with dance is actually able to dance, their whole lives.
Right.
So would you speak a little bit to that, and what that's maybe meant to you, and perhaps your health?
Well, I think it's a blessing. It's two things. One is because I'm able to keep dancing. I have the means, the area, the facility to be able to do that. And it's something that, what gonna make me cry, because I really love movement. I watch people move, and it's taken me into my next way. Teaching Pilates and stuff is another way of watching people move. Teaching people how to line their bodies up, teaching people how to use their bodies. All my little girls, when I teach ballet class, I not only teach them ballet class, but I teach them anatomy because they need to know, like, this part of your leg is called your quads. This is your IT band, your iliotibial band. This is how it works. This is why you have that. I teach my girls that not only just this is a plie and a tendu, but I want them to know the muscle groups too. The body is amazing. If you guys, and you get one body, you got to take care of it. You have to. I just turned 58 years old, and I'm like, I got to take care of it. I can't let it go. I fight day in and day out.
Everyone thought you were 20 when you danced that night.
Oh yeah. Well, can I just tell you something? So, do you know Dan Stafford? He's up in Preston Hollow. He's a choreographer, a young choreographer. I'll send you his information. So one day he comes over and we sit on the front porch and we're talking. And he's talking about this solo that he's choreographing for himself. And I'm like, oh, it sounds so interesting. You should definitely do it. And so a few days later, he calls me and he says, you know, I had this dream. And I said, what was the dream? He said, you were doing my solo. So I initially started laughing. And so he invited me up to his studio and I was up in the studio and he was doing some stuff and he goes, try this. And you wouldn't believe I'm dancing this guy's solo now. So we were working on it and I'm like this. I go home and because I'm not dancing every day, I go up there and I give it my all. And I come back home and for the next 2 days, I'm like, oh. But it's doing. Oh, John tried to hug me. I was going, don't touch me. Please don't touch me.
Gary's laughing a little too hard here.
I don't like that, Gary.
No, I can relate.
I think a lot of us could really relate to that.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm out of retirement again for the second time. And I'm going to say it like I said the last time. This is the last time.
We believe you.
Okay,
Sure we do. Okay.
So did you tell them about the group, my kids that got to dance at the Hudson Valley Dance Festival?
No.
So do you guys know about the Hudson Valley Dance Festival that happens every year? So that last year, the year prior, I got a chance to choreograph. My argument with Denise was that we don't have any local representation there. And we don't have any of our kids. And I find it so great to see all these other kids, these other dancers come up there. But I really would like to see some local kids so they can see what it's like to be on the stage. So I got 8 of my kids, 8 of my kids to perform. And I had the whole summer to work with them. And we had a code. So anytime they would, and I was trying to teach them to dance and be in a professional setting. And one thing I never want to do is embarrass anybody. So we had a saying, and I would go, "How are you feeling?" And that meant that they were either talking too much or something. But I didn't want to go to them and say, "Shut up." So I would go to them and say, "How are you feeling?" And they knew what I meant by that. And so we were only supposed to dance the matinee. And my kids got there, and remember, I worked them the whole summer. I mean, I really beat the crap out of them. But they did a fantastic job, that they were invited to dance, not just the matinee, but the evening performance too. And that was like the most proudest moment. I was like, now I feel like I'm the parents watching my kids grow up and doing something totally, and I pulled them all in the room and I just gave them the biggest hug. And just told them how proud I was of them. And they did a fantastic job. So, yeah, I really love my local kids.
They did. Oh, and Marcus, you're such an inspiration. You really are. I mean, people say that, but you actually really live it. And the impact that you have on this community up here is so far and wide. It's just...
Oh. Well, I'm trying to make change locally. I'm on the police review board of Athens.
Okay.
And I'm going in, and let me tell you, I really had to talk to the police chief because he said he doesn't see color. And I told him, that's where you're wrong. You need to see color. You need to know that I'm Black, and you need to know that my experience is different from yours. And so I'm at the meetings all the time.
Absolutely.
Giving them shit. So yeah, one person at a time is going to make a change in our town. So
Make them all read Just Mercy.
oh yeah, well Yes, I'll make them read that. But also the letters from, was it the letters that Martin Luther King wrote from the prison?
Birmingham jail.
Birmingham, yes.
Mm.
So I made them listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
I told them that they all need to listen to it.
I heard Cory Booker read that as Martin Luther King at something once, and of course Cory Booker can deliver, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
Great.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to all of you.
It's
I've
been
had a really
wonderful.
good evening. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Marcus.
Yes, thank you. And so this is the end of our number 2 Life in the Arts conversation. And there'll be somebody next Monday, same time, same channel. And we'll send you all invitations. So, thank you, Marcus. Thank Todd for arranging this. And
Thank you
thanks
for having me.
all of you for being here.
Thank you, Joe, our stellar interviewer.
Anyway,
Good night,
I can
everyone.
talk good. Okay. Good night, Paul.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.